The storm of colors in the sky was the last thing Hale expected to see before dying. One moment he was piloting a worn human courier ship across a quiet trade lane, humming to himself and thinking about the warm tea waiting back at base. The next moment, a gravitational surge pulled his vessel downward like an invisible hand. His screen flashed warnings he'd never seen, the engines screamed, and he could only mutter, "Oh, come on, not today." He didn't even know what planet he was falling toward. And he absolutely didn't know he was dropping straight into the ceremonial courtyard of an alien royal wedding. Below, thousands of citizens stood beneath floating lanterns that shimmered like soft suns. At the center of the courtyard stood Princess, beloved daughter of the sapphire throne, dressed in crystalline silk that glowed like the sea at dawn. Her eyes were gentle, her voice steady, but her heart trembled with a secret she hadn't dared whisper to anyone. She didn't want this marriage. Not to Prince, the diplomatic choice. Not to the quiet future chosen for her. She wished, just once, that life might surprise her. And then the sky tore open. A blazing human ship plummeted toward the ceremony, spiraling, burning, falling like a wounded star. The courtyard erupted into gasps and screams, guards shielding the princess as the vessel crashed into the flower-drawn platform in a roar of fire and scattered petals. Felt the world spin to white. When he opened his eyes, he found himself lying in the middle of a shimmering courtyard, surrounded by silent, stunned aliens with jeweled skin. His suit was smoking, his heart racing. He realized, with the slow horror of someone watching his reputation evaporate, that he had crashed, literally, into someone's extremely important event. A tall royal guard aimed a lance of blue energy at him, raised both hands. "Hi, I'm really sorry. I think my GPS broke, or the universe hates me, probably both." The crowd murmured, startled by his odd, almost fragile manners. Humans were rumored to be fierce, unbreakable, unpredictable, but this one seemed apologetic. Then Princess stepped forward. Her gaze met his, curious, soft, frightened, yet strangely relieved. As if this impossible accident had shaken apart the cage she'd been quietly trapped in. She wondered, in a breath she didn't dare exhale too loudly, if fate had just answered a prayer she hadn't meant anyone to hear. "Do not harm him," she ordered gently. It shocked everyone, even blinked. Prince approached, frustration burning behind his forced expression. "Your Highness, this intruder has disrupted our union ceremony. He must be taken for questioning." But shook her head. "He is injured, and he did not intend this." Tried to sit up. "Really didn't. I was trying to deliver medical supplies. I swear I wasn't aiming for the wedding stage, or whatever this is. Nice decorations, though." Some aliens exchanged confused glances. Others stifled laughs. And something inside warmed, because this stranger, unconscious moments ago, managed to speak with sincerity so disarming it cut through the heavy formality of her world. The elders gathered at the front murmured urgently. A sacred law was now in question. Any being who touched the princess during her wedding ceremony, accidentally or not, triggered the ancient binding debate, a protective clause designed centuries ago. His voice trembled with irritation. Because he fell into the ceremonial space, we must now examine if fate has chosen him as a potential claimant. Pointed at himself. "Wait, me? Oh no, 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 I'm not here to claim anything. I barely claim my own laundry." But the law was clear. His heart pounded. Because for the first time, someone unexpected had stepped into her carefully scripted life, and something about him felt achingly different. And fate, silent and fierce, had already begun to rewrite everything. The courtyard remained eerily quiet, as if the entire kingdom held its breath at once. Sat on the broken platform, feeling like the world's most unfortunate wedding crasher, while hundreds of elegant eyes watched his every movement. He swallowed hard, brushing dust from his suit. "So, about accidentally falling into your royal tradition. Any chance there's a refund policy?" No one laughed except Princess. It was soft, brief, almost hidden, but unmistakable. The sound surprised even her. She hadn't laughed freely in weeks. The weight of royal expectations had pressed on her chest like stone, yet this strange human, confused, injured, and desperately trying to be polite, pulled a genuine breath of amusement from her. Noticed his jaw tightened. The eldest royal advisor, elder, stepped forward, his voice echoing through a voice-amplifying crystal. According to the ancient binding law, any being who enters the sacred circle of union during the ceremonial hour must be evaluated as a possible fated partner. Blinked, I am absolutely not fated, I'm just clumsy. Ignored him. Princess, you must stand beside the human while we conduct the ritual of truth. Inhaled sharply, so soon. It is required. She hesitated only a moment before stepping toward. As she approached him, something softened in her posture, an unspoken gratitude that fate had disrupted a future she felt powerless to escape. When she reached him, he attempted a small wave. Hi, again, sorry for the fire, smoke, and ruining your big day thing. Her eyes shimmered like silver water. You did not ruin it. She looked away before her feelings became too visible. Guardians formed a circle around them. The guests stepped back, whispering. Above, the lanterns flickered gently in the evening breeze, their glow falling over and like a quiet blessing. Raised a crystalline scepter. The ritual of truth begins. The question is simple. Are your hearts aligned by chance or by the deeper order of the universe? Whispered too, the universe barely manages my flight schedule. She smiled again, small but real. A beam of soft blue light enveloped them both. It warmed their skin, filling the air with a low hum, felt his pulse racing. Should I be worried about exploding? No, whispered, it only reveals truth. That sounds worse. The beam pulsed once, and in that moment their emotions were laid bare. Uncertainty, fear, her quiet longing, his stubborn hope for survival. But beneath it all, something unexpected glowed faintly, a thread of connection neither understood. Eyebrows lifted. The light reveals compatibility. Stepped forward. Impossible, he is human. Even so, replied, the truth is the truth. Held up both hands. Let's slow down. I'm not here to steal anyone's princess. I literally crash-landed. Can't we just file a very detailed apology report and pretend this never happened? His voice softened. Our laws do not allow us to ignore fate. He turned to her, sensing the weariness in her words. Do you want this marriage to him? Her breath caught. No one had asked her that. Not her council, not the kingdom, not even. Watched the emotion flicker across her face. Fear, hope, honesty aching to break through. She looked then at the circle of elders, then finally at the stranger who had fallen from the sky and unintentionally given her a moment of truth she'd never been allowed. No, she whispered, I do not. A ripple of shock passed through the crowd. His eyes narrowed. You dishonor our agreement. It was not my choice to agree, she replied gently. I have only ever tried to be what the kingdom needed. Today, fate intervened. Stood slowly, steadying himself. Look, I'm not trying to take your place, he told, and I'm definitely not qualified. Lifted the scepter higher. Then the next step is clear. The human must undergo the trials of worth. If he succeeds, fate accepts him. If he fails, the law releases the princess. Exhaled shakily, trials plural. Looked at him with genuine worry. You do not have to do this. But met her gaze, really met it, and something in him refused to let her stand alone. I crashed into your life, he said softly. At least let me stand with you now. Her heart trembled, and the trials began. Hadn't imagined many things in life, but if he had, standing on an ancient stone arena preparing for alien trials that determine a princess's destiny, would not have made the list. Yet here he was, sore, bruised, confused, and surrounded by towering guards who marched with ceremonial precision. Princess walked beside him, her gown now replaced by a simpler royal garment, soft blue with faint luminescent embroidery. She kept stealing glances at him as though torn between anxiety and gratitude. She finally whispered, You truly do not have to face these trials. He gave a half-smile. If I don't, what happens to you? Her silence answered for her. He nodded, then I guess I'm doing them. Looked at him with an emotion she hadn't felt in a long time, trust. Fragile, new, but unmistakable. Elder's voice echoed across the arena. The trials of worth reveal the inner truth of a being's soul. Strength is not measured by power, but by intention. Courage is not tested by victory, but by heart. Muttered, great. I hope they test sarcasm, that's my best skill. Laughed under her breath. It warmed him more than the alien sun. The first trial began as the ground rumbled beneath his feet. Stone panels shifted like living puzzle pieces, forming a maze around him. High walls rose, shimmering with symbols that moved like water. Announced Trial 1, the Labyrinth of Self. Exit the maze without losing yourself to fear or illusion. Took a steadying breath. Okay, no fear, no illusions, just a human with questionable cardio. He stepped inside. The walls immediately shifted, whispering echoes of voices, some familiar, others unknown. His childhood memories flickered, his failures replayed like shadows on stone. But he kept walking, reminding himself of the one voice that mattered now, his quiet courage. A whisper slithered through the air, "You are not enough." Paused, then shook his head. "I've heard worse from my old flight instructor." The maze twisted violently, trying to shake him. Illusions of collapsing ceilings, ghostly figures, and endless paths tried to disorient him. But one thought kept him moving. Someone believed in him for the first time in a long while. He reached the center of the labyrinth, exhausted but steady. The final wall lowered, revealing the exit. Princess stood there, her eyes shining with relief. As stumbled out, she stepped forward without thinking and caught his arm. "You made it." He smiled at her closeness. "Mostly because I didn't want to look foolish in front of you." "You did not." Their hands lingered a second too long before she let go. Raised the scepter. The human has passed the first trial. Watching from the shadows, frowned deeply. His patience thinned. The second trial was announced almost immediately. Trial 2, the Mirror of Courage. A pedestal rose from the ground, holding a single orb that glowed like a captured star. Approached it cautiously. "What does this one do?" he whispered. Replied softly, "It reveals your deepest fear, and you must face it." Exhaled, "Fantastic." He reached out and touched the orb. Light burst around him, blinding gold. When it cleared, he found himself on a metal walkway high above endless darkness. Wind roared. The walkway shook violently. He knew this place, a memory he never revisited. The accident. Years ago, during his early training, he had failed to save a friend in a collapsing facility. The guilt had chased him like a shadow ever since. The walkway cracked beneath him. "Not again," he whispered. He braced himself, forcing his breathing steady. "It wasn't my fault. I did everything I could, and I have to move forward." The illusion trembled, resisting his clarity. He spoke louder, firmer. "I won't let my past freeze me, not today." The walkway dissolved into smoke. Stood once more in the arena, trembling but unbroken. Rushed forward. "Are you all right?" He nodded slowly. "I think I finally am." His voice boomed. "The second trial is complete. Only one remains." His eyes darkened. His heart raced, and looked toward the final challenge with a mixture of fear and a growing sense of purpose he never expected to find in a kingdom not his own. Night fell gently across the Sapphire Kingdom, its towers glowing with soft turquoise light that pulsed like deep ocean currents. The arena had grown quieter, the anticipation heavier. Stood at the center of the stone platform, still catching his breath from the second trial. Sweat clung to his brow, but his eyes held a steady fire he didn't realize he possessed. Princess stood a few steps away, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. She looked calm to the watching crowd, but inside her chest her heartbeat refused to slow. She wasn't supposed to feel this. Fear for a stranger, hope in a miracle, a tenderness she didn't yet know how to name. Elder lifted the crystalline scepter, its glow flickering like a candle. "The final test," he announced, "is the trial of devotion. It shows not strength, not courage, but the truth of the heart." Rubbed the back of his neck. "Is this the part where I have to write an essay?" Ignored the comment again. In this trial, you will face a scenario that reveals where your loyalty truly lies. If your heart falters, the binding cannot proceed. Frowned, I don't even know what my loyalty is supposed to be to. Whispered, just be honest. Whatever you are inside, let that truth lead you. He nodded, drawn to the sincerity in her eyes. The ground beneath him glowed, forming a circle of blue light. A gentle breeze swept across the arena, carrying a faint hum that resonated with the deep stone beneath. Felt a pull, soft at first, then overwhelming, like his thoughts were being guided into a dream. The world shifted. Suddenly he stood in a vast field of golden grass swaying under a familiar human sky. A warm wind brushed his face. Birds he recognized drifted across the horizon. It felt like Earth, his Earth, home. His chest tightened. Ahead, a small camp stood with his old human crew, people he hadn't seen in years. They called his name with open arms, relief flooding their voices. "We thought we lost you." His heart ached. The sight pulled him with the strength of every lonely night he'd spent among stars. A familiar figure approached, the captain who'd been like family to him. "Come home, your place is with us. Leave this alien world behind." Warmth, safety, belonging, everything he thought he wanted. Then another voice whispered behind him, soft, fearful. He turned. Princess stood there alone, wrapped in gentle starlight. Her face wasn't commanding or royal. She looked human in her vulnerability, lost, afraid to reach for him, afraid he would walk away. "I didn't want to interrupt," she whispered, "but I felt you disappearing, and I didn't want you to leave." He stared at her, torn. The golden field shimmered. His crew reached out for him. The captain repeated, "Your life is here." But's voice trembled. "If you walk into that world, I won't stop you, but I will miss you." Her eyes glistened like softened moonlight. "You changed something in me today, and I do not want to lose that." Felt the truth strike him like a quiet lightning bolt. Back home, he had a life. But here, he had a purpose. Here, someone needed him. He took a breath, stepped away from the golden field, and walked toward. The illusion trembled violently. The crew shouted. The sky flickered. Gasped when he reached her, "You chose." He smiled gently. "I choose the path where someone believes in me, and right now, that's you." The illusion shattered in a burst of white light. Found himself back in the arena, breathless, heart racing. Stood in front of him, real, warm, eyes shimmering with emotion she could no longer hide. Elder lowered the scepter. The human has completed all 3 trials. His devotion is true. The crowd erupted into stunned murmurs. Stepped forward, fury burning beneath his calm mask. "So that's it. This outsider passes because he stumbled through fate." Replied, "Fate guided him. The truth accepted him." His voice was soft but unwavering. "Hale has proven his heart." Blinked, "Does that mean I'm done?" Smiled, a soft, luminous smile that changed something in the air around them. "It means," she whispered, "that your life is about to change forever." The sapphire palace glowed like a floating dream in the twilight, its translucent towers catching starlight and bending it into soft rivers of color that flowed across the marble floors. Had never seen anything like it. He walked beside Princess through long corridors, each illuminated by gentle blue lanterns. His steps echoed faintly, still uneven from exhaustion, but his heart felt steadier than ever. Kept glancing at him as if checking to be sure he was really there. Her world had changed in a single day, and so had she. Someone had finally fought for her, not out of duty, not out of political gain, but out of genuine conviction. Glanced around nervously. "So, what happens now? Do I get a medal, a thank you card, a ride back to my ship, assuming it isn't dust?" She smiled softly. "Now the council decides the next ceremonial steps. The trials only reveal truth. The final decision is the binding choice." "That sounds important," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "It is," whispered. "It is the moment where the universe's will is honored or rejected." Swallowed, "And I'm guessing it involves me." Her voice gentled. "It involves both of us." Before he could respond, they reached the crystal veranda, a wide balcony overlooking the glowing city below. The air carried a cool, sweet scent from the star-bloom trees. Stepped out first, letting the wind brush through her hair like threads of silver. Followed, pausing at the breathtaking sight. Watched him with careful eyes. Are you frightened? He exhaled. Honestly, terrified. I came here by accident. I wasn't trying to disrupt your life or become a candidate for whatever this is. She nodded slowly. I know, and yet fate brought you here. My people believe nothing is random. He leaned on the railing. Humans don't believe that, at least not all of us. She turned to face him fully. What do you believe? He hesitated. He had never been good at talking about his heart, never good at claiming anything personal. But this moment felt like one he couldn't run from. I believe, he said softly, that I was lost for a long time, and today I didn't feel lost. Her breath caught in her throat. Before she could speak, the advisor elder appeared at the doorway, his robes shimmering like mist. Princess, hail, the council has reached its judgment. Straightened, her heartbeat quickening. Stood taller, though his stomach twisted. Raised a scroll. By the ancient law, since the trials have been passed, the binding choice must be made tonight. If the princess chooses the human, the fates are joined. If she refuses, the ceremony dissolves and destiny redirects. Blinked, wait, she chooses. Nodded gently. Yes, the trials prove your heart, but the choice is mine. Continued, you both must appear before the council at moonrise. Until then, you are permitted a moment of private reflection. With that, he bowed and silence settled around them like a soft cloak. Turned toward her, voice barely above a whisper. You do not know our customs, you do not know my people, and yet you walked into every trial without hesitation. You faced illusions meant to break you. You faced your past. You faced your fears. He shrugged lightly. I didn't do it alone. Her eyes glowed with emotion. You did, but you also gave me something precious today. What's that? A choice, she breathed. My whole life has been dictated by duty, by promises made before I was even born. And then, a human fell from the sky and changed everything. Felt the pull between them, quiet, steady, undeniable. He said softly, I never meant to crash your wedding. She smiled faintly. And yet, I no longer wish to remember the day without you in it. The wind brushed between them like a warm sigh. He stepped a little closer. She didn't step back. Whatever happens, murmured, I'm here, not because your laws say I should be, but because I want to be. Her eyes shimmered. Then meet me at moonrise, and I will give you my truth. Behind them, the moon was already climbing. And their hearts had already begun the final journey toward a destiny neither had ever imagined. Moonrise in the Sapphire Kingdom was unlike anything had ever witnessed. The moon drifted upward like a giant opal, scattering soft ribbons of white and blue light across every tower, every stairway, every crystal dome. It made the palace glow as if woven from starlight. Stood at the entrance of the celestial hall, the place where the binding choice would be declared. He rubbed his palms on his trousers, trying to steady the rapid pounding of his heart. He wasn't afraid of another trial. He wasn't afraid of the council. He was afraid of losing something he didn't have words for yet. He had spent most of his life drifting between stations, jobs, and quiet missions, never having something to hold on to. Now, in a single day, he had found someone whose presence felt like gravity. He didn't know how he could want someone he'd only met hours ago, but he did, deeply, honestly. And now she had to choose him, or let him go forever. Footsteps whispered behind him. When he turned, Princess appeared at the top of the marble steps, the moonlight catching in her silver-touched hair. She wore a ceremonial robe of pale blue silk, embroidered with soft lines that resembled flowing stardust. She looked both royal and heartbreakingly human. Swallowed, you look incredible. Her cheeks warmed, and you look frightened. He exhaled, only a little, okay, a lot. She stepped closer until their breaths nearly mingled. Before we go inside, I want to speak without the weight of the council listening. He nodded quickly, anything. His hands tightened at her sides. I spent my whole life doing what others decided for me, every step, every smile, every promise. When I was told I would marry, I accepted it, not because I wanted to, but because it was expected. Her voice trembled as she met's gaze. Then you fell from the sky, and suddenly, for the first time, I questioned the path laid out for me. Not because you are human, not because you interrupted a ceremony, but because you treated me as a person before you saw me as a princess. His breath hitched. Looked down, gathering courage. I am afraid, not of choosing you, but of whether you truly want this life, my life, a life of responsibility, of eyes watching us, of expectations that never fade. He stepped closer, gently lifting her chin so she met his eyes again. I didn't come here looking for purpose, but today I found one, and maybe it sounds impossible or reckless or too sudden, but I know what my heart feels. She waited, barely blinking. I want to stand beside you, he whispered. Not because fate says so, but because you make me want to be someone better. Her breath shook. She whispered, her voice soft as moonlight. I have never been able to choose anything for myself. Tonight will be the first time I choose without fear. He felt her words like a warm flame inside him. A deep gong resonated through the palace, signaling that the binding choice must begin. Took his hand. He froze. She had never touched him so openly before. Her fingers tightened. Walk with me. Together, they entered the celestial hall. The council, the elders, nobles, advisors, sat in curved rows like concentric rings of shimmering stone. At the center stood the binding shrine, a pedestal glowing with gentle blue fire. Prince stood to one side, expression unreadable but tense. Elder's voice filled the hall. Princess, the trials are completed, the truth has been revealed. Now by ancient law you must declare your binding choice. His hand trembled in. She stepped forward. The hall fell into complete silence. Thousands of eyes focused on the princess, who finally had the right to choose her future. Lifted her gaze toward the council, her voice steady, but full of emotion that made every word tremble with honesty. My choice, she said, is... The hall held its breath. Even stopped breathing. The one my heart leads me to. She turned toward him. Her eyes were shining. Her lips parted to speak the name she had chosen, and felt the world tilt as everything hung on the very next breath. The princess spoke his name softly, yet the sound echoed through the grand celestial hall like a bell struck in the heart of the universe. Gasps scattered across the chamber. Felt the floor shift beneath him, a rush of warmth rising through his chest until he could barely breathe. He had prepared himself to lose her, to smile and step back if she chose the path that seemed right for her kingdom. But he had never dared imagine hearing his own name spoken as her choice. Prince's eyes widened, shock breaking through the practiced calm of royalty. His jaw tightened, but instead of anger, something like sorrow flickered in his gaze. He bowed his head, accepting a fate he could not change. Stepped closer too, her voice steady, her hands no longer trembling. My choice, she said clearly, facing the council, is the one who entered my life without a purpose yet gave me one I never knew I needed. My choice is... A rumble of voices rose, some surprised, some disapproving, some moved beyond words. Elder banged his staff, calling for quiet. After a long, tense silence, he spoke with dignity but also something unexpectedly gentle. If the princess chooses from truth and not compulsion, the law compels us to honor her decision, but the final vow rests in mutual acceptance. He looked at. Human traveler, do you accept the binding choice? Felt emotion swell in his throat. He turned to who watched him with a mixture of hope, fear, and a tenderness that made his heart ache. I do, whispered, then louder, voice firm and full of conviction. I accept. A ripple of energy shimmered across the hall. The blue fire on the pedestal flared brighter, rising in soft spirals like dancing threads of starlight. Then come forward, commanded, and seal the bond. And stepped together toward the glowing pedestal. As they approached, the fire softened, encircling them with warmth that felt like it reached into their very souls. extended her hand first. Her fingers brushed his palm with a delicate certainty. She said softly, "In choosing you, I choose a life of unknowns, but a life where I am allowed to be myself." He swallowed, overwhelmed. "I've spent years drifting, thinking I wasn't meant for anything lasting, but standing here with you, this feels like the place I was always meant to arrive." The binding fire swirled upward between their joined hands, weaving a radiant band of shimmering silver-blue light around their fingers. It pulsed once, twice, then gently faded into the air, leaving behind a warmth neither of them could explain. "It is done," Elder declared. "The binding stands." The hall erupted into applause, a mix of relief, astonishment, joy, and a few reluctant nods from elders who had resisted change, but could not deny the sincerity before them. Stepped forward, stiffened, but the prince stopped at a respectful distance, offering a small nod. "Princess," said quietly, "I hope your choice brings you the joy your heart deserves." His voice softened. "And human, take care of her." Nodded deeply, "I will." Placed her hand on his arm, guiding him out of the center of the hall. As they stepped onto the balcony overlooking the starlit kingdom, the wind lifted her hair gently. The world below glowed with moonlight. The palace towers shimmered like crystal spears rising toward the heavens. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then whispered, "Today my life changed forever." Looked at her with an emotion he no longer tried to conceal. "Mine too." She smiled, soft, luminous, filled with hope. "Are you afraid of the future?" He thought about that, the responsibility, the unknown, the impossible journey ahead. "Yes," he said honestly, then he entwined his fingers with hers. "But not if you're in it." Leaned into him, her voice barely a breath. "Then we walk it together." And under the light of the rising moon, one human, one alien princess, they stood at the beginning of a new story. A story born from a crash, shaped by courage, held together by choice, and destined to grow in the space between two very different worlds. A story that proved, above all else, what humanity was truly capable of. Love,